Hey y'all, it's Red, your favorite non-binary creative life coach. I'm here with chapter 1 of Brene Brown's Daring Greatly. And I am going to talk about some things that I'm not an expert on. That's fine. Some things about parenting and kids come up. I have taken a single childhood development class. If you don't agree with my thoughts, that's fine. You can share yours in the comments. I look forward to hearing them. Um, but anyway, this first chapter is about scarcity, looking inside our culture of never enough. And I'm just going to sort of talk about the notes that I took as I go through this chapter. And a lot of the things that I say in my notes and what I'm going to say in this video, I'm sure come up in the rest of the book. And my questions get answered, and my questions get answered in a way that I don't expect. But that's fine. I'm just kind of pretending that I'm doing a Socratic seminar with myself. And I also bring up a few experiences that are not the end-all be-all of experiences. They're just my own experiences. And if you have a different one, that's fine. Again, you can share them in your comments. Okay, yes. Chapter 1, scarcity, looking inside the culture of never enough. First, she talks about how everybody is calling everybody a narcissist these days. And yeah, I've seen that a lot as well. There's just a lot about narcissism, and people are like, oh, the kids these days, they take too many selfies. But I'm thinking about, like, in the olden days when people would sit for hours and hours and hours and, get themselves carved out of marble and then, display this in their house if they could afford it. Or get paintings done and pay the painters for hours and hours and hours of work. And it's just like, well, this is something accessible. Selfies and Instagram, and sometimes, yes, it can be damaging, but that's not the only thing that's at play. People aren't only posting to Instagram to show that they're better than other people. A lot of the times people post to social media their own experiences in order to connect to other people with similar experiences. Yeah. So then there's also this bit about, I highlighted the quote, is what almost no one understands is how every level of severity in this diagnosis, if somebody actually has narcissism, in this diagnosis is underpinned by shame. And that shame is more likely to be the cause of these behaviors, not the cure. Yes. And I kind of make a note here that says, generationally, it might be parents or teachers or leaders that are generally in real life, IRL, invalidating, teens, Zoomers, whatever you want to call them. These leaders are invalidating and not teaching and not loving the kids as they deserve to be loved these days. So that might be a product of, I don't know, maybe the parents are real narcissists. I don't know. Maybe they just don't know how to take care of the kids because the information hasn't been, as available as it is now. But yes, there's also that idea of, like, real narcissists creating secondary narcissists, a term that I just totally came up with myself that has no basis in fact. Because like a real narcissist, if they become a parent, they're like, oh, everything's me, this kid needs to take care of me, everything that I do is important, and this kid needs to follow every rule. And then maybe that kid gets older and only sees that option of how to interact with the world. So that's kind of my thoughts about narcissism and how people sort of talk down about people on Instagram or teens these days, because I think it's incredibly inappropriate to just say some stuff about this generation that people don't even know about. I think that when we look at narcissism, we need to look at the generations sort of separately on one level, but similarly on another, of how again, it's underpinned by shame. If it's an older person, their narcissism might have been underpinned by shame because their parents didn't know how to take care of them in the correct way, or just couldn't or wasn't available. Then, of course, Brene sort of answers my thoughts by exactly saying, diagnosing and labeling people whose struggles are more environmental or learned than genetic or organic is often far more detrimental to healing and change than it is helpful. Labeling the problem in a way that makes it about who people are rather than the choices they're making lets all of us off the hook. Too bad, that's not who I am. And the difference between that is, I was always a little confused at the beginning of my knowledge, wellness, psych journey about what the difference is between who we are and the choices that we make. But eventually it kind of got clear when somebody said to me, it's the difference between thinking of yourself as, I am a bad person, versus I have done a single bad action that maybe I could repair for and move on with my life. And people are complicated. It's not just every single thing I do is bad, right? Then I highlighted this other sentence that says, I see the fear of never feeling extraordinary enough to be noticed, to be lovable, to belong, or to cultivate a sense of purpose. And I bring that back to maybe these people who look like narcissists to other people. Maybe they look like that because they weren't loved, noticed now. They're still not being loved or noticed now as teens or kids or whoever. Or if they're older, they weren't paid attention to enough when they were kids or teens, right? So then I kind of highlighted a few sentences that says, and I see how kids that grow up on a steady diet of reality television, celebrity culture, and unsupervised social media can absorb this messaging that they're not enough and develop a completely skewed sense of the world. I am only as good as the number of likes I get on Facebook or Instagram. And I get nervous seeing things like that, because then I think of what parents might try to do to combat this issue of too much social media or whatever. And I think, oh no, it's the parents that see these kids on their devices. Is it the parents that are trying to, cut them down to size? Is that what's happening? Is that a relationship that happens a lot? Is the parents say, oh, you're not good enough to get enough likes or whatever? Or is social media the only place that these people get attention? Are they just simply, for whatever reason, just rejected or not noticed by the parents for whatever reason? And that makes me kind of sad, because for some people, social media is their only option for connection, right? And I also want to talk about something that a psychologist once said to me during a class about childhood development and how that affects our the way that we move through the world, and depression and anxiety and all these overlapping psychological situations. And this woman said to me that kids, especially teenagers, are supposed to get a few years of time where it's me, 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 me. That's how it works. That's how we develop as children. And I don't know the exact age ranges here, but as babies and as little kids, we have this sort of, or we're supposed to have this secure relationship with our parents where we kind of feel like we are the parents and we're not quite individuals yet, and we go along with all the parents' rules and the parents' morals, and we just go along with whatever keeps us alive, and we perceive that what the parent does or wants is what will keep us alive. So we kind of seem like the same person. Not really like I am my mom, but there's a thing going on in there that's like everything that person does, I have to do as well to stay alive. And then when we become teenagers, then we start to find our own morals and ways of living in the world. And that's just how it's supposed to be. We're supposed to, go look through the evidence and go through our experiences and see what works for us, rather than just blindly accepting whatever our parents or guardians or whoever was around and going along with everything they were doing. Where would we be without the creativity of teenagers going for their own thing, moving towards their own belief? We'd be completely stuck. And sometimes this can come across as difficulties in a household when the younger person realizes something, it might be off about some process of the older person, just like for themselves. And then in that difficulty, a lot of people just say, oh, that kid's just a teenager and being wrong and difficult just because they're a teenager, or they're only going on social media to avoid their real life. And, but maybe that kid or teen is going to social media to find other people that align with their beliefs if they're not getting any support from those around them. I just think that teenagers are I just think they're great. Okay. And I know I was a difficult teenager, and I know why. And I just wish that teens would get more support, because I just think it's ridiculous how people talk down about them finding their own way in the world and what they have to offer. Because then the rest of their lives are for figuring out how to give what they have to offer back, right? How much of these people's lives are people trying to take from them? Just let them figure it out. Yeah, it's completely normal to go through a stage of me, and that's what people need to be safe and feel heard and feel like they can contribute something back in the world later. And it's better for all of us if we just let people find out what they're good at and what they like. So I think that'll be my video for today. I still have several pages to talk about in chapter 1, But I talked more about how great teenagers are, even if many of them are avoidant, which makes sense. I talked more about teenagers than I thought I would. But anyway, if you have any feelings about this, maybe let me know if you liked it. If you're just mad about it, take a minute before commenting, because it might just be something that came up as a pattern that you're used to, and I think it's just important to take a breath before we jump into being mad about things on the internet. Not that you will be, but that's just something I can foresee in the future. Anyway, hope you like teens. Hope you like Brene Brown's Daring Greatly. We'll continue our seminar later. Peace.